me introduce Dr. Appaji, and he is a doyen of pharma industry, and he is actually also the founder of PHARMEXCIL, which is the Pharma Export Council, and of course, presently he is an advisor and a consultant for many pharma industries, and we at the Neoscience Hub is trying to uh, gain something from his expertise, and he has a extensive and comprehensive knowledge about the pharma industry. So, welcome to Neoscience Hub, Dr. Appaji, and it's really a pleasure, to be meeting you, and of course, sharing your thoughts is very important for everyone, for all our viewers and for all our readers. So, Dr. Appaji, I would like to first of all, thank you for giving us this opportunity. And first of all, I would like to start off with say from the present scenario where the Indian pharma has really done some amazing work as far as the pandemic is concerned. Like they have come out with so many different solutions, and they have come out so fast. Like it was something I think unparalleled as far as pharma history is concerned. So, what do you have to say about that? How come, they have come out with so many aspects that too? There was so much of speculation about it.
I have been in pharma line entire my lifetime. I started my career in somewhere in 1975 as a pharma drug regulator. Since then, I was with the government of India as a policy maker for pharma policies on behalf of central government, and then took up this challenging job of taking our country to global arena by introducing our Indian pharma companies to whole world. I have seen, I have watched, and I have passionately I got myself involved into this sector. Sector has grown, and we have become strong and known for generic medicines. And as you have now just asked me, what is that we have done and how we contributed to pandemic, that is a real test and a real question mark for us. And this pandemic has one way helped India in getting the pharma recognized. Yeah, as we were just discussing, that Trump himself, as a pharma president, himself has commented that but for India, we could not. And the savior of mankind for this pandemic is Indian pharma. The same thing was reflected in the comments of Brazilian Prime Minister. And leaving about these observations, what we should really understand is whatever are medicines required, whether they are new drugs introduced globally for COVID treatment, or old drugs which are used for various therapies, which are the effects and adverse effects on the side effects of COVID. All these drugs, Indian pharma has come into challenging position and supplied the medicines. When Trump or even US wanted hydroxyquinone, yes, hydroxyquinone was available. When they wanted dexamethasone, yes, dexamethasone. It's a old drug, but Indian company just made it over the night and gave huge supplies. Azithromycin and another drug, what is required. And latest drugs in COVID, as latest as 2 days back, molnupiravir of Merck, oral drug. And that is one company globally, but here there are 15 companies in India where they are licensed by Merck, and they are ready to supply to Indian population and also to global populations. And this is what is the latest 1 or 2 days before news. But if you look into the real need, a real contribution of Indian pharma to this pandemic, is the greatest contribution of our vaccine sector.
Okay.
And when I was talking to people, when I was talking to regulators, they themselves were telling that how is it possible to bring a vaccine? There is no such thing like bringing any vaccine before 5 years, or there is no such example of getting a vaccine within 10 years of taking up the research assignment. But in this case, our people have shown, and the world has shown, science has shown how to really make it, and the governments and regulators have helped in that assessment. And the facility created by Serum Institute to meet the demand, to meet global demand, is something extraordinary. I really cannot imagine how they could really take up the challenge. They developed separately for COVID vaccine, and they had entered into an agreement with Oxford University, AstraZeneca, and they created huge facility for supply or for manufacture for the innovator drug of AstraZeneca. But leaving apart the AstraZeneca's COVID vaccine and our Bharat Biotech's contribution, and Bharat Biotech and our my good friends in the DCGA office, including DCGA, they themselves were excited and they took it as challenge. I was frequently interacting with them, how the things are moving, how they are doing. Bharat Biotech's innovation and acceptance and clearance by WHO, and 2 days before, even the clearance for children fell to 18 years old children for Bharat Biotech medicine. Even that nasal vaccine which is being developed by them, and other oral drugs, even Pfizer's latest oral drug, combination drug, which Pfizer has brought. I am just today I was talking to a very senior industry chairman. I am coming from there after discussion, and during the discussion today, he was sharing that the company is prepared to ease in negotiations with Pfizer also, and they are ready to bring their Pexcosil or another oral COVID drug, the best it seems to me, and the best now so far what we got, and that will be available from India perhaps in a month time. What more we can, what more we know we want, and what the country wants, what the world wants. Indian generic industry, Indian pharma industry has contributed and really brought good name to our country.
Label that India is the pharmacy of the world. Do you think it is justified? And if it is justified, how is it justified? Can you tell me?
The government of India has coined this word that India is pharmacy of the world, and we have proved to this. Even before time also we have proved, and this with this COVID contribution we have thoroughly give examples to the whole globe. When we say India is the pharmacy of the world, what is required is, are we able to really provide those medicines to the world which are required globally? Now, when we coined this term, some countries really felt that how that is, and in my view, the correction or maybe little modification is, India is pharmacy of the generic medicines, generic world.
Okay.
And maybe yes, we agree that when we say pharmacy of the world, medicines are of two types. There are innovation drugs which are protected by patents, and there are medicines which have come out of patent. Now they are generic or they are now off patented. And when we talk of off patented drugs, any drug that is going off patent, Indian companies are in a position to bring it into the market soon after or even before 6 months of the product that is going off patent.
Okay.
And there is no drug which is required, and Indian companies did not really get any technology and they could not introduce. Examples are extremely rare. There is a patented drug, the drug is much in demand, and particularly chemical type. New chemical entities, not biologicals, not biosimilars and others, but I am talking about NCEs, new chemical entities. Right. If the new drug is there innovated and it is under protection for say something like 10 years to 15 years by the innovator, because of the patent protection.
Okay.
And Indian company, any company, whether it is Reddy's or that is Glenmark or it is Zydus, whoever it is, Lupin or these companies, they are ready with their filing with the US FDA 6 months before.
Okay.
And when that product goes off the patent in the global market, patent expires, then the next day, not India, even the American US market is dumped with our products, generic versions in the US and global markets, and at price normally, if it is $100 product per unit say, pill, and when we introduce this pill into the global markets, it may be given almost offered at about $90 or so, and within 6 months, after the expiry of the patent, our Indian company's contribution is making it to bring down the price to even $5.
Okay.
$100, I'm just giving an example, to $5 within 6 months, with at least 5 to 10 Indian generic companies feeding this particular drug which has gone off patent immediately after its patent expiry is something extraordinary.
Yes.
Not only that these patented drugs are available, but as I said, NCEs, chemical entities, they are almost all chemical entities which have got global positions. Indian companies are able to develop their own processes without contravening their processes,
Right.
Patents in process, and they are bringing up. And the same thing happened with COVID, and I have seen myself friends asking me to help in getting their products like Remdesivir. Remdesivir is an innovation drug that is required for COVID, and I could really help them, talking to my friends and arranging the injection to them globally, and as a licensee also. That is the greatest of our Indian pharma today.
You think that it has been the manufacturing processes or the technological processes that has enabled our pharma industry to really take up the challenge and going for a diversified portfolio.
Yes,
In fact, most of the companies are focused on certain drugs, but it seems as
It
if
is diversified portfolio.
so this kind of diversified portfolio, how were they able to actually take up this kind of challenge?
They are real great scientists of our country, and skills development in our country, whether it is a normal tablet or whether it is a sophisticated complex preparation like sustained release product,
Yes.
complex medication, or it is an injectable form, or whether it is a sophisticated, highly chemical natured molecule or simple molecule. Our chemistry is strong, our skill for synthesis is strong, our knowledge on pharmaceutical formulations is strong, and that only has made us to make generic versions so easily during the term itself. In the most sophisticated complex generics introduction also we could make it, and I attribute this to the greatness of our Indian scientists and Indian pharmacists, their skill for developing the dossiers, their skill for submission of data, and the skill for maintaining GMP, US FDA level GMPs. All these things, all credit should go to our Indian pharmacists or Indian scientists who are working in our laboratories.
Why is it that not much of private partnership, private and public partnership happening? Is it because we have so many public science institutions, but there's not many collaborative efforts in trying to promote more new drug discoveries? Or why is this happening? Like, is it because of a lack of consciousness or awareness, or is it because they are not at all? This is not a priority area. Do you think? Because over the years we have seen that there's not much of a because when it comes to the pharma sector, they say we don't have the funds to get into R&D. and when it comes to the government, they say this is not a priority sector. So what exactly is happening? Can you just give an analysis about it?
No, true. You are very rightly observed, and your observation is correct. In the beginning, if we recall into the India's contribution to government, Indian government's contribution or for policies, government has reserved certain products as a public sector reserved for public sector, say penicillin G, even chloroquine, likewise paracetamol, reserved for small scale sector. Important drugs, government thought in 1970s and 60s when the policies were developed, when the industry was just growing, government wanted to encourage. Our CSIR has also got that IICD, RRL, and CDRI and others, government labs. The government wanted these things 1960, and the priorities were shown, but unfortunately, the private sector, because of cost involvement, could not take up these original innovations, and public sector could not really come up with successful molecules in the last 3-4 decades.
Okay.
The only few molecules have come which are first of type in the world, but those molecules really did not come up to the expectations, and they did not get the market. But when we take into private sector, initially we remember Dr. Anji Reddy's effort when he was successful to introduce methyl dopa as a generic drug, ibuprofen as a generic drug, ciprofloxacin as a generic drug, like Ranbaxy and Dr. Reddy's and Lupin. They were the beginners who have introduced generic versions. They tried to develop new molecules, go for innovations, and spend huge money. But unfortunately, that time, maybe about 15 to 20 years before, it was a bad experience for these companies, particularly as I remember, Dr. Reddy's and others. Their molecules did not go through at the end in the final phase 3 trials, and a huge cost burden. And government fund was not support was not coming to the private sector. Then they have slowed down. Of late, some private sector companies like Glenmark, Lupin, Torrent, they are coming up. And only few days back, a week back, I have seen that Zydus Catalyst, innovative drug, also has got the approval, not only in India, even with US FDA. And this will take time. But even now, from government side, public-private sector interaction has not grown to that extent that is desirable, though efforts are being made. And private sector is coming up with new molecules, with new inventions. It will still take time. I don't think that in next 5 to 10 years we will come up with big innovations as being done by Japanese companies or US companies or EU companies. They are far advanced. The costs are going up. Competition is so crude. But at the moment, only 1 week back, I was sharing with you that Malaviyaji, our Honorable Minister of DOP, Chemicals and Fertilizers, now he is in charge of our health also. A very dynamic person, as I could see as an outsider. He has announced R&D policy. He means in the government department of pharmaceuticals is really studying the nerve, studying, understanding the requirements. And if the good R&D policy of the government comes up and fund flow is arranged to private sector, and good interaction with public sector to private sector is taken up, we may get some good new molecules after 10 years, not even before 10 years. I don't foresee any such thing, but there is a need, and then only we can really keep up our position as a pharmacy of the world, not only for generic drugs, then we will retain that position even for innovator drugs. That is required very much.
So as you have very clearly stated, the kind of a gap between this kind of, between the private and public sectors. Do you think is it kind of a burden that the government considers, in investing in R&D, or is it because What could be the actual reason for this? You know, I mean the indifference to the research and development as well as to trying to promote or inspire some kind of a development. What do you think is the reason?
I agree to some extent. Government has not been so proactive to the pharma, particularly with respect to getting new drugs. Fund constraints were there, and only by policy measurements, government was announcing to grow to take care of the pharma sector. But before COVID, unfortunately, I was feeling when our government came and made Ayush Ministry, and there were announcements by former late Anantakumarji, minister, that we are making Department of Pharmaceuticals also as a ministry, taking it as a priority requirement. Now it is only DOP. After several years, pharmaceutical wing in the chemicals and petrochemicals
Yes.
division of chemicals and fertilizers ministry, which is the administrative ministry for pharmaceuticals. After several years, it was made a separate department of pharmaceuticals, DOP, now popularly known as.
Yes.
And after DOP, Anand Kumarji took over, and when he said that the like Ministry of Ayush was formed, very rightly, and we all want it, and it was a good decision. But the Department of Pharmaceuticals has remained the same. There were so many calls and so many media reports that even cabinet approved that making a Department of Pharmaceuticals as Ministry of Pharmaceuticals. No, there is no such thing even today.
Yeah.
But after this COVID, after the supply of medicines supply, and also the fear of if China stops supplies to India, leaving apart supply of medicines globally, but our own 140 crore population.
Yes.
What is the position? Government realize, and from effective, very dynamic people are working, and if these things have to come, it has to become a ministry separately, and where regulator and administrator and price control and science development departments have to come together. When I was in the ministry, I used to always share which are all the departments to be combined with if a ministry is formed, and how the DCGA as a regulator and how NPPA as a price regulator, and they have to work together. I was sharing my views.
Okay.
And still the departments are separate. Still they are working differently. And IDPL renovation is needed. Some public sector development in formulations is needed. But they realize that with the private sector growth, public sector cannot sustain the competition, and public sector really cannot absorb the cost. But still there is a need, even if it is not able to sustain, for to look after the government requirements and military requirements. Government should have a public sector with huge investment and good interaction of private and public sector, and also CSIR laboratories is required, and huge funding, whether it is in the bioscience sector or biopharma sector or pharma sector. Government for research and development funding is required. That realization has come to the government. It should continue. Industry has grown, and with a lot of investments are coming after COVID. Globally, people are now looking to Indian joint ventures as against the Chinese investments. Earlier, before COVID, it was all towards Chinese government. Now their interest for Indian pharma is growing. I am also seeing inquiries and friends talking to me. It is the time for government of India and industry to utilize these opportunities and to strengthen Indian pharma and to retain that one up position of Indian pharma industry as the pharmacy of the world.
Okay. But there's one thing we notice is we observe or from experience also, it shows that since the pharma industry in India is quite, especially the indigenous industry, I mean not the multinational, they are more in a comfort zone of generics, and they do not like to go out of that comfort zone. And apart from that, they are, it's not that pharma companies lack the funding or the finances. There are many companies, and most of them are into exports, as you must be quite aware.
very much, yes.
So they could as well be able to afford R&D, isn't it? Don't you think so?
Agreed. I agree with you. And the comfort zone or rather satisfactory levels are there, and the company major pharma companies they are now they are in a affordable position to take up the challenges. Also, their knowledge and their wisdom has grown, and research scientists have come up. Several skilled people who have done their in US, they are coming back. It is time for a private sector to take up some challenging research projects and develop new molecules. But at the same time, costs have gone up. A risk of introducing new molecules with any adverse effect, costs to inhibitors and others, what happened globally? They had to pay huge penalties to the people who have used them. And that type of sustainable financial strength is required, not only developing a new molecule, but if God forbid any such problem come, can they really face global onslaught, global challenger, global suits with billions of dollars when they introduce? But for this involvement of innovators from regulated markets like US and EU with Indian companies is required. Government support and government assurance to take care of them in case of the problems, in case of failures, that is required. Then only I see that these new innovations from India will come. But still, again I will repeat, as I see the present position, we are far away from bringing new innovative good molecules.
Okay.
We are far away.
So you have been a regulator as well as you have been an expert in as far as foreign trade is concerned. So as a regulator, what is your perspective about Indian regulations in the pharma sector?
I started my career in 1975 as a regulator, as an officer working in the drugs control of Andhra Pradesh. And today, from the PHARMEXCIL as a director general, I have seen how the drug control officers and regulatory departments are working, and I have also seen how the overseas people talk about Indian regulators and Indian industry complying with the regulations. There is a drastic improvement during the last 4 decades, and at the moment, latest position is there is good appreciation and realization by the industry, the domestic industry, and also by overseas regulators about the depth and knowledge levels of Indian regulators. They have gone up tremendously, and Indian regulators, both in state government and also central governments, their knowledge levels have gone up, and they are at par with US and EU and the Japanese regulators and their regulations. State governments, there was weakness sometime back. Some states were very weak in regulatory knowledge, and some states were very strong. But most of the states in India now also have become strong enough, and the regulators have developed good knowledge, and industry also realized that the old time of getting away with minor excuses or minor penalties have gone. Laws have become stringent, and the regulators' watch and advices to industry has gone up. Exporters, importers taking our Indian medicines, they are thoroughly satisfied. The fact that EU and US people accepting and taking up our products with accepted qualities is a real indication.
Right.
As far as quality of product, or as far as knowledge levels of regulators, implementation standards of government, they have gone up. And that's why now people are a little scared to enter into pharma sector with investments because regulatory wisdom regime is evident and they are scared. If something happens, entire industry will get collapse. We are developing at par with others, and our knowledge levels have gone up in the last 15 years, 10 to 15 years. I have seen it as a Director General of PHARMEXCIL when I visited, and also I am interacting with industry. I have my colleagues in the regulators. All it makes me happy to see that there is a good development and there is a good quality improvement. There is a good GMP improvement in India.
Okay, there is regulatory has become quite knowledgeable, but what further improvisations do you think is required to promote the pharma sector from your point of view?
Very good, and this is what everybody expects is that with the developing knowledge, with the developing regulations, day by day standards are increasing. One important aspect I want to share, and I have been sharing with friends also, and which has not been observed very closely so far, is the fact that in case of several drugs, there is a difference in bioavailability of the product, efficacy of the drug when it is taken biologically. And for good reasons, Indian government or Indian drug regulator did not implement this provision as implemented by overseas countries or regulator markets. The need for looking into bioavailability of the drug at the time of giving licenses. Now, there were only few drugs where there is a possibility of a difference in bioavailability is felt, and government is now insisting in graded level that where there is a known fact that this particular drug, because of its structure, because of its polymorphism, because of its chemical nature, different types of things availability are because of the manufacture and use of excipients.
Right.
The bioavailability of the drug absorption may be different, and the government realized drug regulator is asking for data on these things, but that is to be implemented. One thing. Second thing, for the good of the public, what I strongly feel, and which is very much being there in developed countries, is impurities in the drugs. Now, there is it is a latest subject which is going up, and many people are not aware, and people are becoming aware of this, that when you manufacture the drug, bulk drug, there are some impurities which are there in the process. They are likely to be there. Some chemicals they remain. If those chemicals which are called as impurities in the tablet are not removed, are not cleared, particularly for chronic drugs, where we take drug for a long time, whether it is a cancer drug or heart drug, diabetic drug. Likewise, when we take it for years, now those impurities which are there as part of the API or which have come into the medicine from the excipients which are used, or impurities which have come from the machinery, whatever possibilities are there, they on long usage will really spoil the health of the patient. Instead of getting cured, we are by taking that medicine in particular case. I am not at all telling all. There are certain medicines, where there is a possibility. Therefore, the impurities tests and others are required, and regulator is asking for that. Stability of the medicines, regulator is insisting whether at the end of the day, we claim that this medicine, this tablet is can be used for 3 years. We claim it as expiry date.
Yes.
And really at the end of the third year, is it really active? Is it available to the extent
Exactly.
that is stated on the label? We didn't have the test, we didn't have that much of a mechanism to know. But now, as the expiries are being there, regulator is asking strongly for the stability data and also for this bioavailability data. These lines need to be improved.
Okay.
They are already there, and they are being realized. Industry is doing, regulator is asking, but need is this particular vacuum gap which is available. need to be improved. I feel at least for chronic drugs, at least for unstable drugs, one has to be very careful.
So, do you think that we have the kind of infrastructure and the human resources to take care of these aspects? It's a very big area, like
Very right. And I personally feel these type of things for a small company, low investment company, is difficult, and only company which can afford with some adequate finances should come. And with these imposing conditions from the regulators, what I see nowadays is that small people are getting out. They are withdrawing themselves.
Okay.
Already it is happening.
Okay.
No, because the regulator is imposing. Regulator is asking now, where is the data?
Right.
And he has developed the knowledge of what he is asking.
Yes.
Therefore, new entrants with small investments is almost stopped, and small scale sector companies with low investments who cannot afford are almost going out. And regulator also is making clear that if you have got strong finances, adequate skills, then only you enter. And this is the time where over the years, maybe next 5 to 10 years, it will remain as the line available for companies with strong financial muscle.
Okay.
Earlier, small companies also used to come. When I joined as a drug inspector in 1975, small room drugs were manufactured.
Yeah.
Today, you can't dream of, you
Yes.
can't think of manufacture of drug in a room.
Right.
And facility requirements are huge, and that is going up. But these minor things, which are definitely crucial to individuals' health, are required to be implemented by the manufacturers, by the regulator, and people also should be vigilant to such quality issues.
Okay. So you have been into the export foreign trade sector for so years, so long. What was the kind of increase in exports that India had seen over the last pandemic during the pandemic period? Has there been any kind of an quantum jump in the exports, or is it has it remained at a very stagnant or the average level?
The export is a good market to Indian companies, and when we were dependent on imports in 1970s, 80s up to 1990, we were dependent on imports, and we were importing and marketing. We were importers up to 1990s. Our policies have really helped in becoming self-sufficient. And now we are almost 90% of the drugs which we consume, they are Indian made, and we are sufficient to that.
Okay.
Only 10% which happen to be the new drugs which are under patent protection, we are importing and using. But when we are, our position today is to supply and look after the needs of the entire globe. Almost 120 countries we are exporting medicines, and I always happily I used to share this fact to the people that there is no single country in the world where a tablet manufactured in India is not taken.
Okay.
There is no country, practically no country. And likewise in vaccines, every one dose of three doses of vaccines consumed by children in the world are made in India.
Right.
This is the position what we have arrived at. But now when if you look into the growth of business, in 1990s, our export business, pharma exports have started, and it started with exports to developing countries like Nigeria or African countries. Later on, it has spread to Asian countries and also CIS countries. And from 2000 onwards or 2005 onwards, it has taken up and we started exporting and making a big name in regulated markets like US and Europe. And as far as the growth is concerned, from 90s to 2000, 2015, 2018, there was a steady growth. But somewhere in between, before COVID, there was stagnation because of US audits and others. And during the COVID, last 2020 and 2021, particularly 2020, a huge jump in exports. I think 40, some 30% of growth in exports was there, and it has reached to 27 billion or so, if I am not wrong. 27 billion dollars export is there, and COVID has really helped the pharma industry to serve the globe and also to make themselves strong financially. And the prices were highly competitive, but many countries have supported. Indian government has supported, and COVID period export growth is substantial. But this year, what I am told, and during the last 1 week I was observing that it is again stagnated or rather little lower than last year growth, because that type of jump and that type of requirement when COVID was at the peak level, you cannot expect this year. And perhaps that is the reason. That is why pharma exports during this year are not as big as last year.
Okay. What do you think? What is your view about more focus? Now, the entire research, development, and products, all these have been are now focused only on COVID related medicines and drugs. And do you think that in the process, the other areas are being neglected, or there's not much of a work going on in other areas?
True. We have not received any complaints or rather media reports or government reports of shortage of medicines of any other segment. And whatever shortages and whatever such problems were faced was only because of supply from China, Chinese raw materials. There was some problem when China was in trouble, when they were facing COVID, and the supply lines were stopped, and India did not get the raw materials, and the prices have shot up.
Okay.
Prices have shot up, and shortages were there, but not because of shift to other products, but because of the shortage of supply in raw materials. But it is almost coming to normal now.
Thank you, Dr. Appaji, and it's been quite an interesting and thought-provoking conversation with you. In fact, you have given a comprehensive information about the actual dynamics of the pharma industry, and that's like coming from you, it is something like an encyclopedia for us, isn't it? Because you have been dealing with it so extensively and comprehensively, and you have been in fact associated with so many policy issues and policy changes. That's it's been really great talking to you, and thanks a lot for sharing the knowledge with us. And not only that, we also at New Science Hub, we also are trying to disseminate and promote this kind of information coming from people like you, the doyens of pharma industry, so that the common people also would come to know about what exactly is happening with the pharma industry. Thanks a lot and for giving us this opportunity.
Thank you, Menanji. Thank you very much.